Minister. Senator Leyonhjelm.
Thank you, Mr President. My question is to Senator Nash, representing the Minister for Health. The Australian Institute of Health and Welfare reports that, for the first time in over 2 decades, the daily smoking rate did not significantly decline over the most recent 3-year period, 2013 to 2016. This is the first 3-year period during which plain packaging has been in force throughout, and over this period tobacco excise rose by more than 50%. Yet in the same period smoking has fallen significantly in numerous countries, including the US and the UK, where there has been no plain packaging, excise is much lower, but e-cigarettes have been legal. Given the evidence, will the government abandon plain packaging and amend its poison standard to treat e-cigarettes like cigarettes, or do we in Australia know better than the rest of the world?
The Minister for Regional Development, representing the Minister for Health, Senator Nash.
Thank you very much, Mr President, and I thank the Senator for his question and for some advance notice of it. Tobacco remains a leading cause of preventable death and disability in Australia, with smoking estimated to kill almost 19,000 Australians a year, and with a total annual cost to the nation of $31.5 billion. This government remains committed to tobacco plain packaging as a legitimate public health measure that is consistent with Australia's international legal obligations. Such a measure has contributed to reducing the smoking rates substantially over the past decade. Despite a slowing in the decline in smoking prevalence rates—
Point of order, Senator Leyonhjelm.
Yes, Mr President, point of order. Just in relation to accuracy, I just quoted some data which contradicts what the Minister has just said.
That is a debating point, Senator Leyonhjelm. It's not a point of order. I call the Minister.
Thank you very much, Mr President. I am referring to advice received. Despite a slowing in the decline in smoking prevalence rates among daily smokers aged 40 years and over, progress has been made within Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people, which is good to note. Ongoing tobacco interventions are critical to ensuring that the prevalence of smoking in Australia continues to decline. The government's taking a precautionary approach to e-cigarettes and is continuing to examine the regulatory framework governing e-cigarettes in Australia. Unlike any e-cigarette product, all smoking cessation therapy products lawfully available for commercial sale in Australia have been evaluated for safety and efficacy and have been registered with the Therapeutic Goods Administration. Though the TGA found that there was insufficient evidence to support the widespread use of e-cigarettes for smoking cessation or harm reduction, the government has funded 8 grants and committed nearly $6.5 million in funding for research into e-cigarettes. Further to this, I understand that the Senator currently has an inquiry into the matter which is due to report on the 13th of September, and I look forward to hearing the outcome of that inquiry.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Leyonhjelm.
Thank you, Mr President. Government officials have been arrested in connection with a tobacco smuggling ring at a time when the excise on cigarettes is 61 cents a stick. Minister, can you recall reports of tobacco smuggling a decade ago when the excise was 23 cents a stick? In a fortnight, you're lifting the excise to 70 cents. Will this lead to more or less tobacco smuggling?
Minister.
Thank you, Mr President. I can advise the Senate that the government provided $7.7 million in the 16-17 budget to expand the tobacco strike team and will introduce strengthened offences for illicit tobacco. The tobacco strike team works to disrupt and dismantle criminal groups engaged in the supply of illicit tobacco to Australia. The government's confident that the tobacco strike team's work is having an impact on the illicit market based on the significant operational success, particularly in terms of seizures. And I should add, Mr President, however, that there is no reliable evidence that increases in excise and tobacco products have influenced the illicit tobacco market in Australia.
Thank you, Minister. Final supplementary question, Senator Leyonhjelm.
Thank you, Mr President. I understand that following the Russian military incursions into the Ukraine in 2014, our Health Department argued that Australia's response should be restrained given Ukraine's WTO case against Australia's plain packaging laws. Can you confirm this? Did our government link plain packaging with other foreign affairs matters in discussions with the Ukrainian government prior to Ukraine dropping their case in 2015?
Minister.
Thank you, Mr President. Australia has firmly and consistently supported the sovereignty and territorial integrity of the Ukraine, and our support has not been linked to other issues, including the WTO plain packaging